Comment 102 basically begs you to be on the lookout for this classic situation. So in other words, difference of two squares. And the reason why we ask you to look out for that is because it factorizes incredibly nicely. It factorizes to double brackets with the same bracket basically twice, but one instance has a plus and one instance has a minus. Now, this is such an important skill across whole of maths that you should not only be on the lookout for this so you can turn it into that, you should also be on the lookout for this, because whenever you see one of those, you do not need to expand it with a full smiley face. You can instead just write two multiplications with a minus sign in between. Just blindly write that next to that, blindly write that next to that, and then put a minus sign in between. It's that simple. Now, why does comment 102.0 get made at all? It's because it's not always so easy to spot these. If I write that, it's pretty easy to spot. You can just say that this is an example where the role of X is being played by A and the role of Y is being played by B. But even something like this, it starts to get harder. You need to spot that the role of X is being played by W and the role of Y is being played by 4. So in your head you can write it as this, and therefore it's same bracket twice, one to the plus, one to the minus. But when numbers are getting big, maybe you're not quite so likely to spot that that's a square number. Well, it is a square number. It's 14 squared. It's the same bracket twice, one to the plus, one to the minus. But you know, just going back on what I said, it doesn't even matter if it's not a square number. Difference of two squares is so powerful that it might even be a good idea to use it in a situation where you have to use square roots, because that is not a square number. But what we mean by saying it's not a square number is that it's not a whole number squared, but it's sure a decimal squared, and that's the decimal which when you square it gives you 10. These can be hard to spot because they also work for even powers, and they also work when there's a number out the front as well. So that's squared thing minus squared thing. In your head you can imagine it as this. So now it's same bracket twice, once with a positive, once with a negative. Okay. I could have also spotted a common factor there. So yeah, be on the lookout for this situation. You see two terms with a minus sign in between, just consider whether it can be difference of two squares. I mean, if you want to take it to a ridiculous extent, you can basically make it work with anything. That's not difference of two squares, but I can regard it as w to the power of 1.5 squared minus square root of w squared. I mean, this is getting a bit ridiculous, but that now fits the template. So same bracket twice, one to the plus, one to the minus. The reason why I'm going to that degree of ridiculousness is just to basically emphasize just how important this skill is. Spotting a difference of two squares can help you in pretty much any area of maths. And what I said at the start is, don't just look for these and turn them into those. Look for those so that you can very quickly expand them by just writing the expressions next to each other with a minus in between. I'll just give you a final example of that. If I saw this, so same bracket twice, one to the plus, one to the minus, I would go yay, I don't have to do the full smiley face and get 4 expressions, I can just get 2. They'll be on either side of a minus sign. What will the 2 expressions be? That next to that, so that's the squaring, and that next to that. What's great about this is you don't have to worry about positives or negatives. You just literally put a minus sign in between the 2 expressions, and that's that. To engineer a situation of that kind, you can often muck around with positives and negatives. So that doesn't quite fit the template there, but it will in a second. All you have to do is reverse the order of those. And now you do have the same bracket twice, once the plus, once the minus. So it'll be a difference of 2 squares.